Okay, friends, welcome back to the Hesitation Media podcast. Wow, it's season 2, episode 1. And looking back at some of the previous work we've done, I found myself in a place where I want to consolidate our gains and, kind of reflect on where we've been and where we're going. And so let's do that together in this first episode of season 2. We are doing our first solo show, so welcome. It's momentous. And I want to talk to you about gems. I think I've been thinking about podcasts, the podcasts I love, what I listen to. And broadly speaking, I realized there's kind of two very abstract, broad categories that I think of. There's background noise and things that are just soothing to me and to my friends who I've been doing market research with. Things that are just kind of soothing, maybe voices I like, more ASMR type things that are mainly, I think the value in them is for anxiety, maybe, or soothing. And then there's what I'm hoping this show can be for us together, for you and for me, which is more about intellectual stimulation, or I'm thinking it as gem hunting or treasure hunting on an intellectual level. And so I see you, the listener, as an intellectual gem seeker. So, someone who's thoughtful and you want something that's meaningful and stimulating, that kind of makes you feel alive. That maybe makes you feel emotionally moved or intellectually challenged. And also, I want it to help you find and help myself find the kind of gems that I tell my smartest friends, the people I love talking to over tea or coffee. And I want you to be able to have more gems that are like worth sharing with others. And so that's like the why and maybe some of the what. My kind of idea for it is, we're called Hesitation Media. Maybe I'll tell the story later of the man. I will tell the story later because we'll get into the core concepts, but what I hope to be gems for you today, 4 of them. So if you stick around for this episode, you may get 4 gems, or at least one, or at least half of one. But we on Hesitation Media are going to try to find the gems that others miss by slowing down and looking. It's, like I said, I hope it's not going to be background noise, and it's more something that's worth focusing on, something that's worth having in the foreground, a kind of illuminated, something that's that illuminates things for you. And there's a lot of fast talk going around and a lot of shallowness, in my opinion. And, I'm hoping to create, and I'm going to create a space for you where we can have discoveries that make you feel, and make me feel intellectually alive. That can start the kind of conversations we remember a week later, that stick with us, that maybe even haunt us or jolt us awake. Also, this isn't a great value proposition, but I want to create cognitive dissonance that challenges my assumptions, your assumptions, through kind of empathic exploration of extreme people and extreme views that maybe differ from what we may be familiar with. And then there's kind of an intersection of psychology, journalism, and activism going on right now. So that's the first segment, the kind of value prop, the what is the podcast. And often, like in previous episodes, we'll have guests, but I'm going to start doing some solo episodes to kind of consolidate what we're doing. So let's go into the gems. Okay, so I don't know what we'll call this one. Probably just call it season 1 or season 2 intro or something boring like that. But the first gem I want to give you is empathetic or empathetic journalism. Maybe let's call it empathic journalism. Tell me what you like better. So this is really intervening this first concept in gem that's going to be kind of part of the DNA of the podcast this season. Is so I was reading about it's coming out of new journalism. You might be familiar with people like Joan Didion, Hunter S. Thompson, who's the guy who wrote Sinatra Has a Cold. Hold on, I'm going to Google it. Sinatra Has a Cold. Something Gary Teresa? Police, or Gay Police. Okay. From the 60s. Amazing article. He has a really cool style too. But anyways, new journalism brought narrative into and subjectivity into a form of journalism that had been, a lot of the ethics of journalism was what are the facts? And bringing a narrative, structure, and a point of view into journalism was really innovative. And then I want to take up that torch and take the subjectivity keep subjectivity into the story, but dim my subjectivity and open up and also the audience, your subjectivity, and kind of objectively, I don't know if that's the right word, but bracket our ego and our self and allow the self of the subjects we're looking at and the subjectivity of the subjects we're exploring to be there, and view them in a kind of very neutral place. So that's an empathic journalism. And I really see it. Okay, so we can look at some of the techniques of empathy. We can do a whole psychology of empathy. It's a very interesting thing you could be reflecting on if you want to, like, what is empathy for you? Yeah, and honestly, just breaking empathic journalism down, we should probably explore both empathy and journalism before we even fuse these together. But, there's things like active listening, being connected, etc. And there's the bigger conversation of empathy as a kind of stance, and as a kind of goal, because with activism, you have the goal of change, you have normativity, we want to transform what is into what should be, and then with journalism, you often have this idea of just, and with science in general, describing what is. And I think empathy allows us to bring that kind of rigor, objective rigor into the mind, to really look at what is and see it. We can definitely get into changing it, but starting with this empathy first. So this is Gem 1, towards an empathic journalism. There's a whole post on this that you can take a look at on the blog. Why might this empathic journalism be interesting? Jungian Shadow Work. This is our second gem. Carl Jung, the psychologist from the 20th century. Very interesting. If you've been following the work here, you probably know you may know, deeply influenced by Jung, training to be an analyst, Jungian psychotherapist. And Jung has this idea, asks about World War III, sometime in the 50s. He died in 61. Maybe even the late 40s he was asked this. He predicted that there would be a World War III unless enough people looked at their shadows and were able to integrate what was there. And so I actually have a quote. I have a slogan about this somewhere. Let's see. So I have this idea that okay. What if the podcast is about empathy with people who have different beliefs than me? What if I could meet across party lines and ideologies and try to understand the part of myself I don't like, accepting parts about myself that are ugly, difficult, or that I hate, in an effort to have more empathy with other people? To me, this is very important for activism, because if we take what Carl Jung is saying seriously, this is a necessary process to that in some way, if we're able to integrate and understand these parts of ourselves that we hate and that are ugly, then there will be less of those people in the world, and less war and violence. So I think this is an interesting idea. I think it needs to be substantiated more, but it can't hurt. I think it's a worthwhile thing to do. And the podcast will be working on this. So when we're doing shadow work, I think we're better equipped to approach conflicts and controversial topics, both with some humility and genuine empathy. So we go in there without this kind of toxic and reactive self-righteousness, which I don't think is helpful. And I think it makes us stupid. I think it's cringe, but I also think it makes us bad tactically. Yeah. Yes. So just something to think about. And I think what we can do, because ostensibly, how do you say that word, y'all? Chad, how do you say it? Ostensibly, a news in politics. I know we're broad, but essentially that's what we're doing. That's what I see the project as, is a kind of intervention in the realm of current events. And we'll talk about slow journalism later, but one thing we can work on for shadow integration in the collective is identifying triggers in news and social media and connecting them to our individual lives, into our past, seeing how they might relate, and exploring kind of what we call in Jungian psychology complexes and how they replicate on cultural and personal levels. I would ask you to do that as a community. We can come together and discuss this. So see what you think about that. And don't worry, I will be providing little worksheets and stuff that you can explore if any of these gems are interesting to you. So, shadow work. Gem 2 with shadow work. Okay, so now I want to talk about post-activism, Gem 3. One day I'll give a history of my experiences in activism, some of the people I've worked with, the mentors. So those stories have been popular before. I usually like to stay more abstract because that's how my mind works, but I think concrete stuff is really helpful. I live in the United States in 2025. It's a very interesting time. It feels apocalyptic, meaning things feel like they're changing. And in a technical way, I mean this technically like a crisis in the sense that things are reaching a point where they're just changing, kind of like a boiling point is the cliche I wanted to use. There's like we're approaching a phase shift because the intensity is picked up. And that has made me want to kind of slow down and take stock and think about the ways I've been doing activism in my life. Activism to me is when you've worked on the empathy and the shadow work and you're ready to transform things more, and you have a sense of what is and you want to move to what ought to be, and you feel really good about that. Like, what kind of strategies are we going to use to envision a better world for ourselves or for the collective? There's a mentor and scholar and thinker I've been studying the last couple of years named Bayo Akunalafe, and he has a whole framework called post-activism, which can be summed up with the slogan, by the way, this is our third gem if I haven't said so already, but post-activism can be summed up by the slogan, what if the way we're responding to the problem is the problem? Which I think is in itself a gem. It's very incisive and thought-provoking. I think recognizing that sometimes the response is less, but especially from an activist standpoint, is more about lashing out than changing. It seems a lot of activist spaces I've been in, they seem toxic to me. I feel toxic in them. They feel like being a victim and losing is essential to the psychological needs of the group, or hurting others is essential. There's a sadistic quality to them sometimes, or a masochistic quality to them, depending on the group. And it's just not working. And people are doing great work on this. I'm definitely not the first person to note this. However, I think post-activism, especially when combined with the other gems, empathic journalism, shadow work, can be a really powerful, maybe a powerful framework to bring us all together. Yeah, so it's something, again, to think about. What kind of world, I think it's powerful to ask what kind of world is imagining the world we want for ourselves, and, a world without violence. The slogan I've had is peace now, both peace in the individual and the collective, I think is really nice. So we imagine that, and then we look at the various ways and strategies we have and see, what approaches have worked for our ancestors and what new creative approaches are being birthed through us. Is the move, y'all. That's something we can look at. So that's our third gem, post-activism. How we respond to problems in our life, and what are the problems in our life too. Okay. Gem 4, the fourth pillar of our exploration today, is hesitation itself, the namesake of the podcast. This is very specific. I'm just going to pause and let you reflect on the idea of hesitation and how it kind of feels. What's your embodied? I'm curious, what does it mean? What does hesitation mean to you? Maybe I'll even try to slow down a little bit while I'm talking about this. I personally like moving fast. I like acceleration. One of the mottos of the project we're working on is to accelerate the pace of cognitive evolution. Very grand motto there. My first analyst, Jungian analyst, was my first analyst and is still living and writing, named Stanton Marlin. Very interesting. Probably famous. Many people know him for the really interesting book, The Black Sun. Also famous in Jungian circles for a fascinating exchange with Dietrich. Oh my gosh. Dietrich. Really interesting Hegelian Jungian. It's like one of those names I've read so many times, but now that I'm asked to say it, Dietrich, the name of the I want to make sure y'all have it because he's very interesting. Society of There's this interesting society we should check out as a group. Let me think on that and I'll come back to it. But going back to Stanton, the exchange, the Black Sun, amazing works. But the thing that really has impacted me as a psychotherapist and as like human and an artist is this paper he wrote called Hesitation and Slowness, which is about how to work a more like psychotherapy technique and kind of looking at our culture of speed. And I'm distracted because I want to get this Dietrich thing right. It's the inferiority. It's his big concept. And I'll put this in our show notes. I'm just Googling frantically, friends. Stanton Marlin. Society, something interiority and depth. And Marlin. Okay, I will put that. I'm going to stop Googling and we'll throw that in the show notes. But check out this work. But anyways, this is not material to the fourth gem. So resetting a bit. Hesitation and slowness. Conscious hesitation is it's different than indecision or avoidance or something. It's being with a topic and like really staying true to it. I think there's like almost a fidelity to Stan and how he works. It's quite unique. I was very lucky to work with him. It feels like it was like a mystical experience often, and sometimes a boring one for me because I'm so like impulsive. But it really changed me. It felt like a stance of openness, like really open feeling that kind of invited a depth and avoided a lot of like premature judgments and solutions that were short-sighted. You might see how this could relate to post-activism, empathic journalism. I'm hoping these weave together for us, friends. And I hope there's a gem in there for you somewhere. And I hope you will enjoy season 2. Let's do a little planning in the next moments we have together. We have many interesting topics coming up. Let's look at our calendar. I'm going to release episodes on Sundays that with guests. solo episodes, if they come out, bonus episodes, will come out Wednesdays. So this will be coming out on Wednesday. The day of Mercury and the day of the Sun, of course. We have really interesting people. I'm looking at the right wing in the United States, a topic called conservative fusionism. So, how did free market libertarians combine with, people focused on a moral order, typically socially conservative Christians in America? Very interested in that history, and then currently how the so-called Bannonite wing of the Republican Party and the Musk wing in 2025, how that parallels that journey, how or if it parallels that journey, or if it's a continuation of that journey, where if any are the divergences. That's one topic. We'll also be looking into occultism, of course. We'll look into the practice of sigil magic. We'll look into dreams. We've got a very interesting guest who is an expert on dream magic. We've got a really interesting series on the edgy sphere, which is a group of individuals who troll school shooters, or they try to groom school shooters. Some try to do that. Some just like to get a rise out of people. Some just celebrate and revel in trolling and irony, using signifiers like Satanism, Nazism, child abuse, really difficult things. But we're going to look into it. There's a piece I'm working on and have done quite a few interviews on this. This is like one of the centerpieces of empathic journalism, one of the earliest experiments in it. And what else do we have coming? Some interesting AI work, looking at artificial intelligence, where we're at in the culture with that. Of course, we'll be looking at synchronicity and synchromisticism, maybe some conspiracy theory if some researchers get back to me that I'd really like to talk to. And we will try to weave these threads together using the topics or the concepts and the gems that we discussed. So, call to action. If you're still here, we're about 30 minutes in. Thank you. Check out the glossary or the whatever worksheet or embodiment tool I put together for this, if you want to take to the next level and discuss. I think building a community of interesting practitioners is going to be crucial to this project. So be that person who engages. And I am grateful for your time and attention. And I'll see you soon, friends. Goodbye.